There we go. All right. So we're going to jump right in and we're going to start tonight. Professor Carlin is going to begin, but Professor Carlin and I have been here at Purdue Global, I don't know, for many years. Um, Certainly going back, I'm going on my 19th year, and I think it's similar for you as well, Professor Carlin. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And as we go forward tonight, if you have questions or comments as we go forward, feel free to share that in the chat as well. All right. So take it away, Professor Carlin.
Excellent. Thank you, Professor Gulley. If you can progress the slide. Excellent. So what I want to start out with today is just an introductory brief overview of legal researchers. So we wear a lot of different hats as a legal researcher. You can see the list here. I don't want to, you can read just as well as I can, so I don't want to bore you with that. But what we do is not, as a legal researcher, is not just like, oh, we're going to touch the skim the surface of the law, skim the surface of a client's facts. What we need to do is, yes, we look at the surface level of the facts, we look at the surface level of the law, but then we need to conduct research. And you can see the third bullet point there. And when we conduct that research, that's the deep dive. And it's bringing it together not just for the sake of knowledge gathering, but to really conduct research to create something that's new in the form of drafting memorandum of law, identifying the citations to support those memoranda. And so when you are doing when you're wearing different hats of the legal researcher, it's critical to remember that it's not just one thing, it's not just two things. You're simultaneously completing a lot of different tasks that can be quite challenging. Next slide. One of the questions you always need to ask is who, what, where, when, why, how. And so when we do this, we need to ask the question, well, who's involved when we're conducting this research? What are the issues that are being considered? Where did it take place? That's a critical question when it comes to jurisdictional issues. Where is it federal? Is it state? Did it happen in multiple states, et cetera? What is the activity where did the activity take place? When did it occur? That can really be critical to answering some other questions. And all of this goes into our legal research product and how we approach it. Why did these issues, why did they develop? And how did the problem arise, which then allows us to conduct even further research to find some of these critical answers. Next slide. When you are conducting research, I'm going to talk about something that I'm sure many, if not all of you, are somewhat familiar with. We always want to start with primary sources of law, and that is the law itself. And so we need to find what are search terms. How can we find relevant law that's going to help us in whatever we're trying to do or to accomplish? And so we can approach it using just simple plain language, like you do for like a Google search, to sort of level up your researching skills and ability. You need to understand what are some key terms. And I'm just talking about like words that are like useful. What are the core, these key words that are really on point with the topic? Now, I know that's easier said than done. And I promise you that if some of you feel like, man, I feel like I just was dropped into the ocean and told to find something. That's how legal research can feel at times. There are tips and tricks, which Professor Gulley and I are going to talk about, that will help you refine your search terms. But really, it's practice makes perfect. And that is really some of the things that you need to do to start jumping into it. Embrace the feeling of being overwhelmed, and you'll find that you improve your search skills. Some of the things you want to keep in mind: jurisdiction. You can see the bullet point under restricting your search limits. Jurisdiction, limit your search to, it's like a filing cabinet drawer. One is for federal, one is for state, one is for multiple. And like if we're just doing a broad search for every drawer there is, you're going to be there forever. If you're able to, like the previous slide, identify which jurisdiction. Is it a federal? Is it a state case? Oh, it's California. Well, man, forget the drawer of all the states. Now you can go to that specific file that is just for California, and it's really going to narrow down your search. And man, that's going to help you a lot. Are you dealing with criminal? Are you dealing with civil? All these questions can help you narrow it down, like the last bullet point here, types of law search. Is it going to be constitutional? Is it statutes? Is it regulations? Are you going to be looking in case law? All of these things will assist you. And I know it can be exciting or overwhelming, and you just want to jump in, or you're just too tepid to do anything. Start outlining and use this as your approach, and you'll find that, man, this is manageable, and I can do it. And I promise you, you can. Next slide. All right. Now there are secondary sources. These are sources of law that help you understand the law. It'd be like an Encyclopedia Britannica for those of you who remember that, or Wikipedia for the 21st century. It's an encyclopedia. Well, it doesn't have to be encyclopedia. It's a resource that helps you understand the law, and it really breaks down in a little more plain English. And you can see the list here: encyclopedias, American Law Reports, Law Review. Just you can see the list there. I love an encyclopedia called AMJUR, American Jurisprudence, second series. It's like an encyclopedia for the law, plain English, plainer English, that helps you understand the topic generally, and then it breaks down into more manageable bits, providing you source citations, many times primary sources. And that will really get you started on that path that you're looking for. I encourage you, when you're exploring secondary sources, to identify, are there any other topics that are on point? Are there any cases that are relevant within those resources? And again, I was just talking about AMJUR as an encyclopedia. Are there case law that's identified, statutes? All of this will be those tips and helps to get you on that path that you're looking for, to find those cases, to build your argument. And that's the beauty of the law. You get to create, in many instances, something that never existed before, and you are the creator. And it's really a fun experience to be part of. Rules, regulations, these, if you're familiar, this is, again, can be primary law that will utilized by administrative agencies to help regulate, and it has the force of law. So many times it can be quite confusing. These secondary sources can really help you on that path to find what you're looking for. Don't lose your path, like that trail of breadcrumbs to know where you began to where you are at now. And so what I encourage you to do is periodically revise your search, going back, doing that 10,000-foot view, looking at what you've done, where it's taken you, can really help you identify maybe gaps in your search as you continue to refine what you're doing. Next slide. All right. Some general tips as you sort of guide you in the way, and you're going to get different traction and mileage off of this. If you start with secondary sources, make sure you find primary source of law that's on point. That will help tie the two together. Always make sure you understand the law, that you're reading it, not just like skimming it. Just sometimes it can be easy to just like, oh, this is what this person said about it, I'm going to take it and run. It's really common with AI. Don't fall into that trap. It's sometimes called abstractification, where you're just like, oh, this is an abstract of what I'm talking about, a summary. I'm good. Don't do it. Like it's a dangerous trap. You need to apply your knowledge, skills, and abilities of interpreting the law and applying your knowledge to it. Some of the best tools out there to help you are what are known as annotated versions. And Westlaw, it's available to you. Annotated versions are those secondary sources that they're, like it said, like it says and it sounds, they're annotations and notes that assist in understanding what the law is saying. Again, you can't take it as the law, but it will point you in the right direction, give you some more insight. And finally, always double check. You want to conduct alternate searches using alternate terms. be more specific, more broad, so you can really get to that point where you're really looking for like saturation. Like I'm finding this, I'm replicating my searches over and over, so that you can really make sure and validate your sources and know that you're right on the right path. Next slide. All right. One of the greatest tools. It's like a Ferrari of search ability, and that is Westlaw. Two main big ones, Westlaw, LexisNexis or Lexis. There is we have access to Westlaw. You can follow the instructions here. When you go to the your course homepage or Purdue Global homepage, you go to the navigation bar, click on content, upper left-hand side, academic tools, library. Once that opens up, it'll be in the middle sort of column. Scroll down, be Westlaw Campus Research. It'll automatically log you in using your PG student credentials. Next slide. You will know you're in the right place when you come to this page. This is what you're looking for. It's a nice breakdown, similar to sort of Google. You got your search bar, but you'll notice on the right-hand side of that search bar, all federal, that's where you can identify the jurisdiction. You can see you can start browsing, whether you want all content, cases, statutes, notice secondary sources in that middle column. This is, if you're not familiar with this, go there now. Start playing with it, interacting with it. Search that your learning curve may be steep at first, but I promise you it'll pay off tremendously. All right, Professor Gulley.
Thank you, Professor Carlin. So we're going to shift gears because once we research, we got to write. And in the legal profession, we have to know how to cite our sources. So now we're going to spend some time talking about the Blue Book, a uniform system of citation. It is literally the resource used for citations in the legal profession. When you are a student in LS 204, Legal Research and Writing, you will receive your own hard copy of this. And you can see it's about an inch thick, almost 400 pages. It's a resource, nothing that you have to memorize, but we're going to focus on various rules tonight. And in your legal research and writing class, some of you may have already had that class. Others you'll be taking in your course of studies later on. Professor Carlin teaches it, I teach it, and some other faculty members here in legal studies teach it as well. And so you'll have an opportunity to practice in those classes. We have learning activities. We discuss them in seminar. We go on field trips in seminar as well. So what in the world do we need citations for? Well, remember, we're writing a legal document. That document is going to be read by someone, right? It could be internal, could be a document we're going to file in court. So we have an audience. So we're going to identify the document, the part to which the writer, if you're the writer you're referring to, and give that audience, give our readers sufficient information to find it so they can actually look it up. You're not going to include the entire source. The page might be a 40-page Supreme Court decision. You're going to cite to it. So then appropriately, then your reader can actually access that if they wish to do so, because you'll have enough information there to give them keys on whether they want to look it up. So in addition to citing when we write internally, whether it's attorneys, law clerks, paralegals, when we file documents in a court of law, obviously judges care about citations and how briefs are drafted. So here's a quote from a case that's a bit critical. Plaintiff's complaint could have been drafted in crayon on the back of a napkin. That's definitely not something that a licensed attorney ever wants to read about, especially in a case where they prepared that complaint, right? So this is a U.S. District Court decision from the Northern District of Illinois back in 1998. So judges pay close attention, whether you're at the federal level or the state level, and court rules dictate as well what citation rules to follow. Some states have different versions for for documents filed in court. but a lot of states will defer to the Blue Book system of citation. That's why we really focus on it here at Purdue Global. I kind of already got ahead of myself with this particular slide, right? But it is the most predominantly used unique system of citation. So when you are out in the legal world, in whether you're, an attorney, a judge, a paralegal, a law clerk, you're not going to be talking about APA or citing anything in APA. If you actually say APA, you might get some blank stares as well. So it's all about how do we cite it as a legal professional. Blue Book. And here's a definition of what a citation is. A reference to a legal precedent, authority, a case, statute, treatise that either substantiates or contradicts a given position. You can look it up, and as I mentioned earlier to the question in the chat, Black's Law Dictionary is available in the electronic version. Some of you may have purchased a hard copy. The 12th edition is the most recent edition of Black's, and as you can see, it was published in 2024. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And when you go into Westlaw, go to secondary sources. You click on secondary sources, and up in the top right corner of that screen, you'll see a link that says Black's Law Dictionary. So you can easily find it. And literally, it has everything available in the electronic version as is available in the print version. And we know there are different, you can get a hard copy, a leather-bound copy, a soft copy. So there are different price points as well. But as a student, you have access to Westlaw, and it is free to you through your course of studies here. So the types of legal sources, and Professor Carlin hit upon these as well, but all of these sources that you will be using in your research from time to time are citable. There's rules for it. Yes, I see the question about do you lose access to Westlaw after you graduate? It is available only for students that are enrolled at Purdue Global and for faculty who teach here as well. So after graduation, but here's the thing, Westlaw is a product of Thomson Reuters, West Publishing Company, and it is predominant, it's one of the databases used in the legal profession. So law offices will have subscriptions to it for their attorneys, for their paralegals. Yes, the entire recording is going to be available on our YouTube page. Professor Carlin is going to make all the slides available. So we'll have a whole YouTube recording of tonight's presentation for you. So you can see primary sources, secondary sources. Let's just jump right in. And I'm going to begin with Rule 11. There are 4 main rules in the Blue Book that we focus on when we talk about this in legal research and writing as well. And those are for the 4 primary sources of law: Rule 11, Rule 10, Rule 12, and Rule 14. So when we cite to a constitution, we go to Rule 11 in the Blue Book, and as easily, you can actually get purchase tabs. Some of my students have shared with me, they went on Amazon and found special tabs custom made for the Blue Book. And you can purchase those. They're not very expensive, or you can make your own as well. So some students like to do that. But what's wonderful too, in the very back of the Blue Book, it has this great index. So you can literally go to whatever you're looking for, and it'll direct you to the page or pages within the Blue Book where the rule is located. So when we are citing a constitution, I've given you 2 examples there of how we cite U.S. Constitution and how we cite to a state constitution. Very similar, as you can see. Rule 11 in the Blue Book tells us exactly what we should do. How should we cite that? So we have the state or country abbreviation, the abbreviation for constitution, which is always going to be C-O-N-S-T period. Lowercase a for the word article, and it's abbreviated A-R-T period. And then we use a Roman numeral for articles and amendments. And then we have the section symbol. We also talk about how to create that. Some of you know how to do that. Plus, you can use a symbol menu on the discussion boards or in Word. But if you're on a Windows-based computer, Right now, you can practice that by holding down your Alt key and just typing 2-1 on your numeric keypad, and it actually works in the chat as well. So we go over that in our seminars in legal research and writing. So Minnesota Constitution, Article 1, Section 13. Blue Book Rule 11. Statutes. So our statutes come to us from our legislative bodies. Congress at the state level, state legislatures, right? So they pass laws and they publish those into books. We typically refer to them as codes. And that is a collection of the laws. We also have rules and regulations, which are from administrative bodies, and that's covered in Rule 14. We'll get to in a moment. And our federal statutes are compiled in the United States Code, USC, or abbreviated as US Code. And when we cite to statutes, we refer to Blue Book Rule 12. Blue Book Rule 12. And I already mentioned the 4 rules: 11 for constitutions, 12 for statutes, 10 for case law, and 14 for administrative regulations. But probably in your research, and in the legal world, it depends on what kind of law you practice, but citing statutes and citing case law are going to be at the top of the list, without a doubt. If you work in the legal field where you practice administrative law, then Rule 14 is certainly going to be something you use on a frequent basis as well, because that's the rule that focuses on how do we cite to a regulation from a government agency. So citing the title number, the code's abbreviation, the section number, and we look at the year of the spine of the code, not a year the statute became effective. When you're using Westlaw, we follow what Rule 12.3.2 says. And when we're looking at a statute in Westlaw, when you bring it up, right at the very top, there's a blue currentness link. It says the word currentness is a clickable link. Every blue link in Westlaw is clickable. You click on that, it takes you to the very bottom of the statute, so you don't have to scroll down yourself, and it will tell you how current that statute is. So we don't use the effective date when it was enacted or when it was amended, but it's the most current date available. Currently, we're in early March of 2026. So right now, depending upon the state legislature and depending on Congress, that current year is going to be 2025 or 2026. But again, it depends on what statutory authority we're looking at. An example of citing to Title 17 of the United States Code, and the section symbol 1201, and the year. When you cite to the United States Code, it's optional to include a year. When you cite to a state statute, it is required. And there's an example of that, another example for you. So it depends, but again, Blue Book rules say you include the year. Court rules for documents filed in court might relax that rule a bit as well. And we have different versions of the United States Code as well. So where possible, we're going to cite the official code and not the unofficial codes. The unofficial versions of our U.S. Code are from the commercial publishers, West Publishing and West Competition, LexisNexis. Michaela, the year, when you cite, basically Blue Book says when you cite to the United States Code, the year in parentheses there in my examples is optional. When you cite to a state statute, the year is required. You might want to get in the habit of always including the year. Way back when I had my first Blue Book years ago, I learned it. That rule was just changed more in recent years. So I've always used the year and continue to do so, unless maybe you're filing something in courts and the rules specify a certain way. We always defer to the specific court rules when we're citing for documents that are filed in court. And you can see how there's similarities there on how we cite. It's just we have an abbreviation. So if you're looking up the official U.S. Code in Westlaw, you can see how it's there. United States Code annotated. That's the West Publishing version. And all of this is spelled out in the Blue Book 2 back in wonderful table T1 in the back of it. And then it varies by state. I just mentioned Blue Book table T1. Every jurisdiction is listed there, from our federal authorities to every single state jurisdiction. And states don't call their statutory publications the same thing. You can see Minnesota. Minnesota, it's called the Minnesota statutes. In Indiana, for you Hoosiers, it's the Indiana Code. In Utah, the Utah Code annotated. And California, Texas, and New York uses a subject matter form, depending upon, so they will refer to the penal code or the family code in those respective states. Again, it's all there for you in black and white in the Blue Book in Table T1. And then we have Rule 14. Our federal regulations are compiled in a publication called the Code of Federal Regulations, the CFR. We have updates found through the list of CFR through the sections affected, the LSA, the Federal Register, also available in Westlaw. The Federal Register, you may be aware of this, every single day that the federal government is open for business, every single rule and regulation that's promulgated from every federal government agency is published in the Federal Register every single day. It's published in chronological order. So some of them may be proposed regulations, some of them may be an announcement for public comment. And then when a regulation is finalized by a government agency, it also must be published in the Federal Register. States also have comparable publications. Every state has some type of administrative regulations. In Indiana, it's called the Indiana Administrative Code. Some of you may be aware of that. But all of it is available in the Blue Book as well. And all of these sources we're talking about tonight is available in Westlaw. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to Professor Carlin, who's going to talk to you about case law.
All right. So transitioning from like administrative regulations to case law, when you have a judge and gavel, 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 that judge from the appellate court above, I think it's Supreme Court, those courts create binding decisions upon the lower courts. Trial court level, those opinions have impact on the parties involved. So what we say is when you have a court's opinion, this is the case or an opinion. We hear it in many different ways, and often it's going to be written by these appellate courts that you're going to find when you're conducting your research within Westlaw. Now, these opinions are printed, appellate court and above, within what are known as law reporters. And you can see a picture here. The gentleman there is looking at some law reporters, or just simply reporters. Next slide. This is another picture of, and this looks somewhat similar to the previous example. They're going to be published in volumes. Either the volume be by a particular court, it could be a group of courts. And what you're going to see is there'll be reporters will be labeled either official, meaning that's been published by the government, or unofficial, meaning that it's been published by private publishers. Think of like Westlaw, Lexis as an example. Next slide. So with that being said, let's look at a case, particularly how to cite a case. Brown v. Board of Education, Topeka, Kansas, 1954. This is the appropriate Blue Book citation. You can see that the party names, Brown v. Board of Education, it finishes with a comma. Those will be either italicized or underlined. Don't do both, please. You will just don't do both. If you're in one of our classes, you will probably get some feedback. At least you should get some feedback. 347, that's going to tell you, hey, I'm looking for the 347th volume of this particular reporter. Yes, if you're looking at a physical book, you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, skip a few, 347. Of which reporter? You can see this is the U.S. reporter, which indicates that it's the United States Supreme Court. And as you open up that 347th volume, you're going to flip to page 42, and then the next page, 43, you're going to see Brown v. Board of Education, and it's going to be published in 1954. Now you may be like, oh my goodness, that's a lot of like, why is board BD and education EUC? Well, we like to really be concise, and so there are a number of common words that are abbreviated. Within your blue book, table, oh, you couldn't see that. You can see table 6 in the back. That is going to give you a number of common words and their abbreviated format. You should be aware that you can modify certain words that are on that list so long as they meet certain requirements, and that'll be in table 6 for you. Next slide. Okay, Supreme Court. A lot of us are pretty familiar when the court comes out with a decision. They are published in official sets called the United States Reports, U.S. For short. Oops. There we go. Okay, my screen was playing around on me. So these are they're going to be published in also what are known as commercial publishers. You can see that the abbreviated, the court reporter is S.CT. That is going to be published by Thomson West. LexisNexis has their own L.ED. This is going to say it's the lawyer's edition for that. All of them are still going to have the same case published by the court. Obviously, Thomson West and LexisNexis oftentimes will include different formatting, but still appropriate to cite. Next slide. All right, here is an example of the Supreme Court Reporter, so you can get the physical look of this. Many of you, if you have a chance, I encourage you to please go to a physical law library to look at it, so you have some familiarity. But if for those of you who don't, until you do, this is what it does look like. If you get to the, I was going to say pocket parts, play around with the books, look at them, love the books. They're fun. Okay, next slide. Here is an example of the lawyer's edition. You got a nice up close picture of this lawyer's edition. You can see it's annotated. That means there's going to be notes included by the publisher, LexisNexis, to assist you in understanding interpretation, additional publisher notes, corollaries, narrations, things that will be supportive of you of when you're conducting your research. Next slide. All right, so here is this is another picture of some great examples. A lot of fun, and I will echo Professor Gulley. If you have in many public libraries, they will have like a law section. Go there. It's really fun to look at and to see. If you're close to a law library, look at those. Many courts will have their own. Go in and just look at them and get a feel and understand that with something you're doing online, you can do physical as well. Next slide. All right. Now we talked about like 3 different reporters, the United States reporter, the official reporter. Then we have the 2 other commercial reporters, one by Thomson West and LexisNexis. The next question is like, what's this thing I keep reading about, parallel citations? Well, you can have one case, as we just discussed, published in parallel reporters. And so if it's published in parallel reporters, some courts may require that you provide a parallel citation. We have Morgan v. United States, classic Bluebook citation to United States Supreme Court case. You can see that with a U.S. Well, you could also see that there's a parallel citation, both to the Supreme Court reporter published by Thomson West, as well as LexisNexis Lawyer's Edition. This is what it would look like. However, do not forget, main citation, the first citation will be the U.S. reporter, the official reporter. Parallel citations will then be the Supreme Court reporter and the Lawyer's Edition. Princess, yes, it's important to be aware that they're all out there. Excellent. Next slide. All right. We've just talked about the Supreme Court. Now, what I want to do is just go down slightly, that jurisdictional approach, Supreme Court at the top. Now look at the appellate courts. They are published many times in federal reporters. The federal reporter, again, case law from different U.S. courts of appeals. The most recent is the fourth series, beginning published in 2021. Here is an example. Medrec v. Metcoil Systems Corp. If you're like, man, that looks an awful lot like the Supreme Court for, Brown v. Board of Education, because it is. Party names ended with a comma. Party names need to be italicized or underlined. Then you have the volume, the reporter, page number, and the year of publication. You'll notice that the identifier of the court is within the parenthetical, the parentheses. That's critical when you cannot look at the reporter abbreviation and identify the court from that. F.3D, we're talking about a region. So therefore, I need to include the court, the abbreviation for the court within the parenthetical prior to the year. Next slide. All right. There's also supplemental reporters. If a case law reporting contains selected opinions from U.S. district courts. So while most opinions are from district courts, think of the trial court level, they are not published. Some are. And so this is where you get the supplemental, or the federal supplemental. Again, Potts v. Dynacorp, intern, LLC, party names, here's italicized, volume, reporter, abbreviation, page number, parenthetical with the court identifier and the year. Since FSUP2D, this is going to be a region, and that's not really going to help me. Now I know it's going to be within Alabama. Okay, excellent. Next slide. Yes. Thank you, Professor Gulley, for mentioning that. Many law schools are open to their law library to the general public, and it's wonderful to get the feel and the look and just understand what it is. So we've been talking about federal. Now there's obviously a corollary to the states, and of course they're going to publish state cases in regional reporters. And when you hear the word regional, then you got to know it's going to be by region. Throwing every possible state case within one volume would be massive. So they break it up. And you can see the Atlantic Reporter and the Southeastern Reporter, and you can read them. You can see the different lists there. I encourage you to find your states. If you were from California, you're in the Pacific Reporter. Oh, I'm from Indiana. There you go. Northeastern Reporter. You can see the abbreviations. Northeastern Reporter, NE2D, NE3D, depending on, yep, like Honor, thank you for sharing it. You got Washington. That's going to be the Pacific Reporter. They're going to be all 50 states and the District of Columbia, 7 different regions. Don't want to leave out the District of Columbia. It's really important. I understand, like, I'm not going to deal with that stuff right now. I understand that, but you need to have this on your radar because one day you will. And this will save you time, particularly in class when you're trying to conduct your research. Next slide. This is a nice, visual graph or a visual picture of what it looks like. You can see from the left hand side of the screen, the Pacific all the way to the Atlantic. You can identify, hey, I'm in California, boom, Pacific Reporter. I'm in Indiana, we already talked about that. Hey, I'm right there, Northeastern Reporter. Please take a moment, identify your state or the state you want to move to when you're practicing, so you get an idea of this is my state regional reporter. Next slide. All right. We've seen a few examples of federal. I want to show you just what some state cases look like. So we have Minnesota Supreme Court. Party names, underline or italicize. You see it's been italicized, ending with a comma. Don't italicize that comma or underline it. We have the volume of the reporter. Again, we're looking at the Northwestern Second Series Reporter. You're going to go into the library, find, the physical one, two, skip a few, 447th volume, pull it off the shelf, turn to page 878, boom, Minigasco Incorporated versus the County of Carver. Again, Northwestern Second Series Reporter. I don't know what court that is. I need to include the abbreviation to the court. I see Min. That tells me it's Minnesota Supreme Court, 1989. Boom. It's that simple. Indiana Supreme Court. I know it cannot be. It's not always simple, but Indiana Supreme Court, party names, volume, reporter, page number, identifier that it's Indiana Supreme Court, IND period, 2013. This is and cases, state cases, really simple, simpler. And the more you do it, the more it'll become comfortable with it, and it'll just roll off your tongue, off your brain. You can do it really quickly and easily. I promise you, if this is intimidating, and I get it, citations can be intimidating, I promise you, you can do it. Your instructors are there to assist you so that when you're let off on your own in the real world professionally, it'll come second nature to you. I promise. Next slide. All right. Oh, yes. I didn't talk about this. I'm glad I didn't. Party names are separated by a V, lowercase v, period. It's not verse, period, VS, period. It's not a capital V, period. It's March Madness, and we're like, it's, Purdue versus whoever. Like, no. It's V, period. Don't forget it. Make sure you get it correct. Some things like this just jump out to us. And then to the courts, and it really is a reflection of you. Okay, next slide. Let's get into some specific rules that I've already discussed, but if you want to break open your blue book, you can be like, I'm gonna tab it right now. Rule 10.2, party names are to be italicized or underlined. Don't do both. Very critical to understand that. Never include the first names of the party unless it's the name of a corporation. So John Smith v. Paul Jones? No. Smith v. Jones. Now, Baker v. John Smith Incorporated? Yes. Very important to understand. If it's a corporation and that's the full name, absolutely you can. Next slide. Yes, you will. Professor Gulley, I echo your comment. I wish there was a like button. You will see your skill set in the Bluebook Citations greatly developed from Unit 1 to Unit 10 in legal research and writing. You really will. And you will pleasantly be surprised, like, oh, wow, this isn't that difficult. Even though you're probably going to go into that class and be like, oh, I can't do this. It's too hard. You can do it. It is challenging, but everything in life is anything worth having in life is challenging. And this is something you definitely want to have a good knowledge base for. All right. Generally speaking, you want to include within the parenthetical the year of the decision. You can see Bush v. Gore, published in 2000. This is reported cases. If the case is unpublished, this is going to look a little different. Then you're going to want to include the month, day, and year. Rule, again, open up your blue book, rule 10.8.1. This is where it's going to provide you like Castro v. City of Chicago. You can see the case number that it's providing, and then you're going to provide this information. You can see it's published by Westlaw. You see WL, the year of the decision, provided Westlaw. All this will be clearly identified within the blue book. Okay. Another thing to be aware, you can see the star 4, that is telling the reader, hey, you need to go to this particular page within that decision. Next slide. So dates are important. Please don't forget that. All right. Now, what do we do like, when the United States is a party to the case? You want to use United States. Don't put, do abbreviation U.S. or United States of America. Like, you do not abbreviate United States. It's the party name. You want to put it just like that. If it's being part of another party's name, you can abbreviate it. You want to look at the words within Table 10. You can see United States v. Church Search of Scientology, W.US, United States. It's appropriate to abbreviate that name because it's not connected with a party to the case that is the United States. Rather, it's a private party. And then you can see volume, reporter, page number. Looking at the reporter, F.2D, well, I can see that that's just a regional reporter. Now I know it's the Ninth Circuit in the parenthetical. Next slide. All right. Now this is where a lot of people are like, well, wait a minute, like I have to do this citation every single time. There's no reference page. It's like every citation is within the body of your document. Yes. However, you can prepare what are known as short citation forms. Since you've already given the full citation at some point previous in your document, let's say it's a memo that you're writing, well, then you can start modifying that citation and using the short form of that citation. Now, what we can use is the id, which says, hey, the previous citation, same citation. Just look at the previous citation, the full citation you're looking for, boom, you're good. Okay. So long as you are citing to the same page. Now, if you're citing to a different page, same case, or I'm sorry, same citation, id at 771. Just say, hey, same source, different page number. Make sure id is italicized. Okay, excellent. Now I'll turn it over to Professor Gulley.
Thank you, Professor Carlin. So we'll just keep moving right along. I'll just continue with id a little bit more. We're down to our final 10 slides. So stay with us. Okay? We'll wrap up probably just right before the top of the hour. So you might imagine it is more Latin. I'm sure your Latin vocabulary has already been expanding since you've been enrolled in your degree program. But it's short for the Latin word idem, and it just simply means the same. So it makes sense, right? So Bluebook Rule 4.1 discusses how to use id appropriately. If the same citation immediately follows the previous cite, so there's no intervening cite source, then that's called a consecutive citation. You can just use id ID period. If the same citation immediately follows the previous cite, but on a different page, id at the page number. So you see the examples I have there as well. And also, id is when id follows the end of a sentence, it is capitalized, the I. If it's within a sentence, the I is not capitalized. A little bit more about a short citation for non-consecutive citations. So again, Bluebook Rule 4 does a good job of discussing this as well. So sometimes in our research, well, many times it will happen because you're going to be using a variety of sources. So if the long citation's been previously given, but the citation does not immediately follow the citation because you're using other sources, you can still have a different short citation format rather than repeating the entire full citation. So I have an example there. The long citation, the first time I'm going to reference the Katz case. The Fourth Amendment protects people, not places. Katz versus United States, 375 U.S. 76. The quote's found on page 82 in the opinion, decided by the Supreme Court in 1965. Now, I've also discussed other sources, but now I'm come back to Katz when I'm going to cite Katz then. The Fourth Amendment protects people, not places. Katz, 375 U.S. at 82. So it's a shorter form, right? I don't have to repeat the entire full citation. Pinpoint citations, we've already seen. I just shared with you the Katz case. That quote is found on page 82. A pinpoint citation is when we're going to tell the reader where the quote or relevant passage appears. So you always must include it when you're quoting. It is not necessarily recommended when you're required, but recommended for paraphrasing. That's similar to the APA rule on in-text citations. So we include the pinpoint citation. So my example here, the number 217 refers to the page number in the pinpoint site for Baker v. Carr, 369 US 186, 217. And I note there it is a U.S. Supreme Court decision, the McConnell case, McConnell versus Federal Election Commission, decided by the Supremes in 2003, 300 pages in length. So imagine trying to find that in a 300-page case without a pinpoint site. You can still do it. It's going to take you a little bit more time, but having that pinpoint site is so helpful and really should be included. In Blue Book rules tell us it must be included. I also note on the slide we call it a jump site or a pin site. Some people like to call it a pin site. I was taught way back when pinpoint. So in my I still use that, even though I share with students there are obviously other words that are used interchangeably. Also, when we abbreviate in case names, earlier, Professor Carlin just showed you just how that was in the Brown versus Board of Education example. Blue Book Table T6. So it specifies how we cite. Association. Now, it's not always going to end in a period. You can see the word association, ASS apostrophe N. Okay. There's also a free site too that has those at the Cornell website. I included that, and that's outside of the Blue Book. If someone doesn't have the Blue Book, there's still other resources available. Committee, corporation, government, university. The way we cite those. Earlier, we had a couple of case citations. I don't know if you caught those, but the word county was abbreviated per table T6 as CNTY. CNTY. The word city is not abbreviated, probably because it's just got 4 letters. County is so long, right? No. But again, we follow the abbreviation convention, the naming convention that Blue Book tells us. Again, it's a resource. You do not have to memorize it. So court names and citing cases, table T7. So there's an entire table in the back of the Blue Book for that. Probate court, you can see how it's abbreviated. Geographical terms in citing cases, table T10. Okay, and it's not necessarily what you're going to put on an envelope or in a letter if you're using the post office abbreviations for states, right? Because Minnesota would be MN, both caps. Indiana would be IN, right? You see Blue Book table T6, T10 tells us it's MINN period, IND period. And there's other abbreviations for some cities, more well-known cities, larger cities, other countries as well. Institutional names in periodicals, table T13, like the American Bar Association would be abbreviated as shown. Now, the secondary sources that Professor Carlin and I mentioned earlier tonight that are all available to you in Westlaw and during your studies in legal research and writing, and some of you, if you're in the bachelor's program, will take LS 244 as well, advanced legal research and writing. So when we look up these sources in our research, there is a specific way to cite them. A law review article, law journal articles, they're also called, they're published by law schools around the country. And Blue Book tells us in 16.7.1 exactly how to cite to a law review or law journal article. And there's the example at the bottom. You can see that is an article published in the Harvard Journal of Law and Technology. Larger law schools will have multiple law reviews and journal publications. Smaller law schools may only have 1 or 2. Other secondary sources, one of my favorite secondary sources in Westlaw for short less scholarly articles is American jurisprudence, AmJur. So we cited Rule 15.8, and there's an example there. Also, in Westlaw, there's another national legal encyclopedia as well, and it's called Corpus Juris Secundum, CJS, which translates to the second body of law. Uh, Completely available as well. Another popular legal encyclopedia. I'm thinking about 12 or 13 states currently have their own state legal encyclopedias. They may be called, well, for example, New York's called New York Jurisprudence Second. Indiana's called the Indiana Law Encyclopedia. California is called California Jurisprudence, just to give you a few examples. Another wonderful secondary source in Westlaw is called the American Law Reports, or commonly referred to as an ALR annotation. Bluebook Rule 16.7.6 tells us how to cite those. Those are more scholarly articles, um, lots of great research, lots of annotations to sources of law, primary sources of law like cases and statutes or constitutions. And there's an example of a citation to an annotation found in Westlaw. Or these are also available, on the shelves in most law libraries as well, in the hardbound books. Bluebook also has a rule on how to cite to newspaper articles, Rule 16.6. And you can see there's an article from the New York Times. So you want to refer to both the author, the title, the name of the publication, the date, and the page number. Internet sources. There's a way to cite to internet sources, and this is different from APA format, which I know many of you are quite familiar with. But when possible, printed source, but if that's not possible, then basically you're looking at the author's name, the title, the date of publication, the URL. You do not just provide a link, a URL or a short link. A citation requires much more detail. You probably have gleaned from the site's webinar is nitpicky to the extreme. Again, we break it down for studies when you have legal research and writing, and we go through it step by step. And you don't have to memorize it. Bluebook is a resource. And there's some online sources as well. You can see there. So there's some the official Bluebook site is legalbluebook.com. You can actually get an electronic subscription when you get your book, your actual book in legal research and writing. In the front cover, it gives you an access code to the online, which I think it's free for like some students do the online version, even though you already are getting the print copy, but it's another purchase. I think it's $45 or $46 a year for the online version. So this is our last slide. So we're going to do a wrap here. Professor Carlin, you want to come back on? Any final questions and comments? We took you right to the top of the hour. We're not going to keep you any longer. So if you do, and hopefully you took away some new knowledge tonight. And again, don't be intimidated by legal research or Bluebook, because in your classes, especially in legal research and writing and advanced legal research and writing, you will really be you'll have so many discussions on the boards, in learning activities, and in seminar. It'll be a great way to kind of baptize you into all things Bluebook.
Absolutely.
All right. All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you all for being with us tonight.